Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D show. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel, hanging out with producer, co-host extraordinaire, Randy Walker. Guest this week, David Juan. I think he was a guest, 50 episodes or so ago?
Yeah, and a couple of weeks ago, but we won't talk about that anymore.
We won't. Yeah, the audio got messed up, so we had to delete it from the archives. But we're here to redo it, as we always do. But hey, you can find us online at itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Meetup is going to be tonight if you're listening on the drop.
Yeah, so you know that sweet transition I did last week?
Yeah.
My microphone was muted the whole time.
It was not.
I re-recorded it afterwards when I was editing. It was.
Because it came through legit.
Yeah, I re-recorded it.
It sounded weird, and that's why.
Yeah, it sounded weird because I was at home re-recording it.
That's hilarious.
But yes, tonight at Detroit Shipping Company, 5 o'clock, tonight being April 17th, we are upstairs, so grab a beer or a drink at the bar downstairs before you head up to see us, and we'll be here until 8 o'clock or so.
No speakers, no cover. No ties, no resumes, just come hang out. And I did get word that one of the OG recruiters, they're going to show up en masse. So there's going to be some recruiters in the house. So,
ooh.
Yeah.
Which company?
Put the word out. Blue Chip.
Oh.
So I got the text today.
Nice.
So David, how they treating you? You doing okay?
I'm good.
It's good to see you. Always good to see you.
Yeah. Good seeing you. Been a little bit.
I always, it's fascinating how when we just sit down and just go at it, how we should have recorded it. We had conversations about this show, that show, and we're like, oh my God, we got to just do the whole and the podcast you're listening to. I'm like, we're going to do the whole show on TV. We're not going to talk about CDP. And you're like, but I need to talk about Black Mirror. I know you haven't seen it yet, and I'm not going to spoil it. Or if you haven't seen it yet, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's season 7 and it's episode 4. And it's one of my favorite things. And I'm not just saying that because I just listened or just watched it, but it's one of my favorite things I've ever watched, ever on TV. It's basically a guy, he's old now and he gets arrested and it goes back and then it kind of does a little flashback, little Guy Ritchie thing. And it goes back to 94 and he's 22, his first job. And he works for the PC Mag, whatever the name was. And he's interviewing a gaming entrepreneur. And basically the guy he steals a disc from the game that he said, and he interviews him and all this, and he takes it home and he plugs it in, and it's like Lemmings or Sim City.
Okay.
But it's but the way the guy framed it up, the entrepreneur, he was like, I've created this game and these beings are sentient. And he's like I'm using artificial intelligence. Granted, this is 94 we're talking about. So the guy's like, whatever, and he puts them in and they kind of just, there's these little things dancing around. It's 94 tech. So all the.
Right. I'm picturing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. And he's kind of a social anxiety guy. And he let in a vagabond that just hey, can I crash on your couch? He's like, yeah, go ahead. Well, the guy brings LSD over. Well, he takes a hit of LSD and then the LSD lets him, he understands these beings in the PC game.
Okay.
So now the guy gets completely strung out on LSD because he speaks to them.
Yeah.
All the while they're like, upgrade your equipment, dude. Upgrade your equipment, dude. And they would give him an inventory list. So he's going to every computer store and breaking open every gaming system known to man to make sure they have this system. Well, it gets to the time and a point where he lets in, the guy comes back and stays on his couch and this time this guy's got a relationship with these things. And he just starts firebombing them, just like you do in Sim City. You build it and then you blow it up.
Yeah.
And the guy comes and goes nuts and goes crazy and murders the guy.
Okay.
And I'm not going to spoil it. The twist in this thing, it's so good. It's so well written. Yeah. And anyone that grew up in 94 AOL CDs,
totally.
That tech.
Yeah. Shareware, all of that, right?
I don't know if it was nostalgia for me because of the old tech, because I remember every single system he had, he was ripping apart Atari Jaguars for the boards, which is crap. We used to always open stuff up, peel it apart and try to put it back together. Oh, it was so good. So you are a Black Mirror junkie, but you haven't hit season 7 yet.
No, not yet. I didn't even know it was out yet because I was telling you before this, I've been in Hawaii for 2 weeks, which is 6-hour time zone difference. And so you're just in a whole different world while you're there. And so I had to catch up on the flight back, which luckily, you get 10 hours to do that on Righteous Gemstones, on White Lotus. And then it's like I'm already behind on now apparently Black Mirror. And Last of Us started off, I just found a Wheel of Time. That's already apparently like towards the end of that season. And so it's like, that's the problem with having so many streaming services where like, it's a funny story actually while I was on vacation. We put the TV on in the hotel, and that was my kids who are 8 and 12. That was their first experience seeing cable television because they've gone their whole life with just streaming. So I'm telling my daughter,
the commercial?
well, I'm telling her, I'm like, go to channel 25, 26, or 27. Those are the channels you'll want. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like take that remote, point it at the screen, hit 2, 6. It took about 5 minutes for her to figure out, well, hold on, wait. So I got to point this end at that thing and then hit like 2 and then it would go to 2. And then it's like, no, wait, 2, 6. What am I doing? Why am I programming this TV right now? And I'm like, no, these are called channels. That's what we used to have to do. This is a commercial. You're going to have to watch this. And actually, you don't get to pick the show. You're just going to have to take the show that's on right now, and you get these 3 to choose from. It was
you get to start at the beginning. You got to join in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like she was like, "Wow, people lived this way." Like,
I remember watching live TV with Gretchen, and I mean, she's 20 now, but she grew up kind of almost in the same. There was no TV, unless it was SpongeBob, and it was different. But I remember commercials. Like fast forward, I'm like, it's not. It's live. Like. I don't, does that compute? Like, it's like, it's not live. What does that even mean? It's on a DVR? No, you can't fast forward through the commercials. What did you think of White Lotus?
I thought it was good. I thought it was so good. Yeah. I mean, I know some people were disappointed in some of the endings. And
everyone, it didn't matter how it would have ended. Everyone's going to complain on the internet.
Yeah.
That's I'm convinced. It doesn't, it's not the way I'm a wrestling fan. It's the same thing. Yeah. If it didn't end the way I wanted, they're going to complain on the internet. What was fascinating to me is I had no idea me and my wife have a bad issue with whatever we're watching. We have to go on IMDb, look up the cast and then look up what they did. And then we talk about it while the show's going on. It's a horrible habit.
Yeah.
But we've been doing it for years. And the girl that was the Thai girl that was dating the security guy. Oh,
Mook.
You know about her?
Mook. Yeah. She's a very famous Korean pop star, right?
She's like the most famous person in the world.
Yeah. I didn't know this either. My wife told me about it. So yeah.
And then not only that, the woman that owned the resort, that video that they played was real. Like she was like,
oh, that actually was her.
Yes,
okay.
That was
I thought that was like really bad AI, but apparently that was real. Wow.
That was actual, like in the 80s, she had a one-hit wonder.
Okay.
Something.
Wow. Good for her.
Right. And that's so I'm like, oh my God, the casting. And my favorite thing is, so like, I got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old daughter. And the videos that they're watching is like Parker Posey in like 94 in these movies. And they're like freaked out that like, this is, and they're like fascinated by, oh my God, that was the mom from White Lotus. I'm like, oh my God. I'm just looking at her as Parker. She's still 94 Parker Posey to me.
Exactly.
But they're all flipped out about this whole like, oh my God, she was young once.
Did you, what was bizarre? Finishing White Lotus on a plane and then, watching it on my phone and then immediately switching to, I don't know, episode 4 of Righteous Gemstones, right? So watching the way it ends with what's his name, Walton Goggins. Yeah. To watch his character, the way it ends there, a very serious guy. Then to go to the episode that starts with Baby Billy, skiing naked on the lake.
Yep.
And I'm like watching the same guy, and it was like such a crazy juxtaposition, right?
Did you hear the story about the famous monologue when they were in the bar?
Oh, no, I didn't hear a story, but I thought it was amazing.
They didn't tell Goggins that was going to happen.
So that was a real jaw-dropping facial expression. That was amazing.
And he didn't crack. He didn't laugh. He didn't be like
such a good actor.
And he just like held it, and you could see like he was like immersed in this just ridiculously crazy story.
And Sam Rockwell, I mean, he's going to win an award for that performance. Like,
have to.
Like, easily.
But it's like, what do you do next? It's kind of like funny that so everybody's speculating. It's created this like crazy subculture. It's such a weird show. If you like really break it down, it's like all these like just everybody's insane.
Right.
Like that's I think just you're going to put a bunch of insane people on an island and see what happens.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much I think though you were funny that you were saying this with all the streaming services. We'll get into IT in a minute, like but this is way too much fun to talk about this stuff. Is the crap that Netflix is greenlighting right now?
Yeah,
they put on I'm a late show up to Kill Tony, which is where they bring in kind of comics, give them a minute, and then they kind of like critique them. And he's like he's like the new roast master. If you don't know who Tony Hinchcliffe is,
no, I don't.
And he always has like Shane Gillis and Rogan will come on once in a while.
Okay,
and he has guys that play like he had a guy that Elon Musk. He was in like costume.
Okay,
Anyway. And then like do you ever see the Red Balloon dating show? Randy, do you know this one?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
I see the clips all the time. And like all the guys or the girls will hold a red balloon. And if you don't like them, they can pop it or you pop it.
I've seen clips. Yeah.
And it looks like the dumbest. I've never sat through one. I just see like rando clips on YouTube or Reels. And it got greenlit on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's on like the big wallpaper, the red. And I'm like, you are running out. You are running out of stuff.
I haven't had a Netflix subscription in a couple of years now, and just bad content. And
you don't have FOMO?
Not really.
Someone's going to ask you at Toco Roco, Randy, are you watching? And you can't answer. I don't have Netflix. Like no one doesn't have Netflix.
I don't know. I make do with Hulu and HBO and Disney Plus and what else? Paramount Plus.
I had to get you made me get Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Still mad at you for that. And I watch more than almost anything right now.
Yeah, I don't even miss Netflix. Plus, my big beef with Netflix is they don't integrate with my Apple TV that all my other apps are on. Like there's a unified queue. No matter what app it's on, it just shows up as new episode in this queue. So I can watch it. But Netflix doesn't do it.
My list thing, they don't do that?
No. And they accidentally enabled it a month and a half ago for like 3 hours. And I said, oops. And then turned it off. Yeah. So F them.
Yeah, but last one is Daredevil's fantastic this season. I don't know if they got it. I don't know if they got like a new writer or some people were like tuned into it. It's legit fantastic.
I could use a little more superhero in my superhero show.
But it's like Law and Order.
Yeah, I heard they went back and reshot episode 1 because there wasn't enough action in the season.
I'm okay with that though. I don't need 24/7 pew pew. Like
yeah, but there's a few episodes where nothing you wouldn't know as a superhero
they
show.
Do. It's a formula, and I don't know why they do it. It's the every other show thing. One show will be like jaw dropping, and then the next one they build it. So it's like I don't know if that's formulaic or they found out that's an algorithm. Like next one for Daredevil, they're going to build up the new bad guy, then he's going to kill him. Then they're going to build up another new bad guy, then they're going to kill him. And it's like this weird, I'm not complaining because I think it's great, but anyway.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it, right? So they have it down to a science. And so, I mean, to tie a little bit of this back into tech, like it's like, I do a lot of, a lot of marketing focused technology, right? So whether it's like landing pages or, lead generation or also, customer data stuff, we'll talk about customer data platforms, but, so that gets into like personalization and it gets into optimization and the way you optimize, these lead forms and landing pages and things like that. Like you may ask questions that really don't even actually matter, but it matters because it drives conversion on the next question you ask, right? So it's like, I could be asking, like, let's say it's a landing page for buying a car. And it's like, well, what kind of cars do you like? And how many, does it need to be a truck? And then, by the way, do you like Disney? And if you're like, yeah, I love Disney. Okay, cool. And so do you like the lease? And there's like, well, yeah, I do like and it's like, I don't know, whatever, because you asked the Disney question before the lease question, you find a 10% lift in conversion. And then it's like, okay, cool. Well, we'll ask them about that all day long or ask them whatever, right? Like, and it's kind of like almost a psychological thing of like, you get someone to say yes. This from the sales world, right? Like say yes 5 times before you ask for like the very first time you really want to like try and close them on something. Right, so, I'm sure that when someone's putting together these how they're structuring these shows and all that kind of stuff, they're thinking of like what like by showing this, then we'll keep people engaged in this way, or it's gonna drive up the watching of this next thing. And you're talking about these shows, you know, that are like who are they making these for? It's like, well, they've probably tested it and they've probably found that there's this small percentage of people that are going to watch it that's enough to drive up a subscription, to say like there's a cost like trade-off to say like, sure, we'll go make a random show about people popping balloons over a dating whatever, because it's going to take up X% of the market and someone's going to watch it. And so,
well, then as I'm watching whatever, I think because I'm superior in my TV watching skills, my daughter comes down who's 18, that completely immersed into what's the dating show rant I'm
Which
asking
one?
you.
I don't know.
The one where there's like the island. It's like
Love is Blind.
It's either Love is Blind or it's something island.
My wife's
and I'm like, I go, God, it's like, and as much, and I sit here while I'm watching professional wrestling and I'm telling my daughter that their dating show is it's written, it's pre-written, it's fake. And she's like, Dad, or like, really, Pop? Like, well, look at what you're watching. Anyway, segue into when we originally had sat down over lunch and you said, I want to talk about CDP.
Yeah.
And I know we had talked about it already once, and I'm still, not that I'm unclear. I have 73 questions. And I want to dive into it because it's fascinating to me. Just the way it's an entire science that isn't even called a science. For those we're in acronym hell in IT, but like for CDP, what I'll let you explain kind of what it is.
Yes. So CDPs, customer data platforms. And, I've gone so deep in this topic over the last probably 24 months or so. And, I work for a very large, one of the largest fintechs. And, I was going through a process of trying to, research and select the right CDP, right customer data platform for, that company. And so that's where I went so deep on it that I was like, well, I've done so many things over my career, implemented, content management systems, implemented A/B testing platforms, implemented, master data management platforms. And it's like, you go through that period of time where you're so deep in that topic, and then then you accomplish the goal for the company, and then you move on to the next thing for that company. And so I figured like, while I got all this information in my head, we may as well talk about it because it might help someone out there that's trying to figure out the same stuff.
So I immediately think it's CRM, and I immediately get my hands slapped by you saying
it's different. It's different.
Well,
and so customer, CRMs, you think of, people know Salesforce, right, as your CRM. And that is where you manage your customer relationships. It's not all data about your customers though. It's some data about your customers, but more specifically, it's about this relationship you have with your customers, the touch points that you have with them, the transactions that you have with them. And it's designed to, allow people to manage a relationship. It's in the name, right? A customer data platform is really more about saying you have that data, but you also have so much other data. You have data from your marketing automation platforms where you're sending, communication to your clients via all types of digital channels. And, you have direct mail you're sending. You have interactions on your website with customers. You have you also have data that you can get from outside of your organization, third-party data about your customers that will give you survey and demographic and behavioral data. And that gets into so much data that like you would just never keep all of that in a CRM, probably because of like compliance reasons. You just wouldn't want a salesperson to have like access to all of that data. That's not what that really would be for.
Right.
That this data really then becomes though useful for people in a CRM, but it also becomes useful for data scientists, and it becomes useful for AI. That's a huge use case now, to be able to say, with all of this customer data that you have, how can you improve, interactions with your customers?
So all I'm thinking about is, like, I know what marketers do with data.
Yeah.
And it's not always good. And you have an entire brand that you really need to uphold.
Yeah.
And I don't tell you, you might know, like I know right now that Google knows more about me than my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Like Amazon knows more about my purchase, like, than my wife. it's just a nature of me putting in 15 years worth of data into, and just know what I'm going to buy next.
Yeah.
It's evident by the 80s and the wrestling t-shirts that pop up every 2 days that I happen to buy every third day. But what I'm saying is there's an ethics and one of the weird, like when you have a form online and you fill it out and you get a call within 13 milliseconds.
Yeah.
And and there's a weird line. Some people might say, oh my God, thank God, how awesome that you got acted on that. And other people would be like, are you kidding me? Right. So there's this, I don't want to say it's not an ethics thing, but you have all this data. Like it's very difficult to destroy your brand. Like how do you keep everything where it's good for the company, but also good for the customer? Like, to know that I'm in the market on something, and to know that how I want to be talked to. I mean, it's a science in and of itself.
I mean, I think that comes.
You follow where I'm going?
Yeah, I follow where you're going. I would say, and so this is where I guess from my stance, I say I'm focused on the customer data platform to make it easy for us to be able to understand the full profile of the client, the full 360, all of the information. And then to be able to readily use that information to drive the outcomes that you intend, right? And so I think in a situation, I'm thinking of like what you just said of like, how would you know if someone filled out a lead form, whether or not they wanted a call now or in 13 seconds or 13 minutes? Like all of them might be possible, or maybe they actually don't want to call. They would rather communicate another way, or this isn't really saying that, this is just a signal that, maybe they're concerned about something else. I think the way you would get to a place where you would understand enough about that person and where they're at in their journey, where they're at in their life cycle, what time it is, wherever it is that they're living, when's the last time they interacted with you, and, have they interacted with your brand in the past, and how did they prefer to be communicated with in those situations? So I say like a customer data platform only arms you with more information to be able to treat someone the way they want to be treated without them explicitly telling you, treat me this way.
Right.
Because you're not going to get all of that from a lead form, but you could potentially get all of that from the customer data that you already likely harness within an organization. So just that's one thing to be clear is the customer data platform is not about necessarily getting any more data than you already have about that customer. It's about saying you already have tons of data about that customer. Bob Waltenspiel has probably interacted with my brand a dozen times over the last 10 years. Yeah. And the only problem is I'm treating him like he's only the Bob Waltenspiel that am I saying that right, by the way? Yeah.
Either way.
I'm treating him like he's only the guy that just filled out this lead form and that's it. To me, that's more of an insult than it's almost like, I'm sure you run into this where like how frustrating it is it when you're on an automated phone system and you give a bunch of information and the first question after waiting 20 minutes, the person that picks up and the first human you talk to ask you is all of the stuff you already keyed in. And you're like, why did I just do all of that then? Why did you just literally ask me the same thing? Right. So I almost feel the same way, knowing what I know about technology and about customer data. When I interact with a brand, let alone a financial institution, and it's like going to the doctors when they say, fill out this form. You filled it out 1,000 times. And some of this information does not change, by the way, but give it to me again, because I don't care if you have to take time and write for like the only time in the next year that you're going to have to write anything, like write it all down on this clipboard that has like COVID germs and stuff all over it and then hand it back to me. So like, that's a huge frustration to me. And I see customer data platforms as ways that like keep people from having those annoying experiences.
Well, I'm going to go nuclear on Comcast.
Okay.
Speaking of TV, I don't know if it's because I'm lazy or I just haven't gone to YouTube TV or I haven't just pulled the plug. I'm the last because my wife watched Hallmark and I had a little kid at the time and it was like, you ruin their TV. It's like, it's a big deal. So I just kind of left it. I didn't care. And I'm tired of not watching Tigers baseball. I'm finding I'm like, I'm just going to go get FanDuel because they took it from me. And I go through the app, this new and improved app, and I cancel Red Zone because football season's over. I forgot I had it. And I cancel Red Zone. That increases my bill $50.
Okay.
So now I'm like, God, so I cancel that. I call 15 times. It's saying, have you used our app? Did you try our app?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I talked to someone, and as I'm speaking to them, I said, I just want to cancel Red Zone and I want to add FanDuel. And you would have thought, like, oh, do you want to add to 1.3 gigs? Or you got to get to this package. If you get in that package, then you got to add to the 185 channels instead of 125. And then we'll get your bill. After all that, I got FanDuel, 60 more channels, and it was $20 less a month.
Okay.
And it took me 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then
it probably cost Comcast $75 or something stupid like that, where like if you look at the cost of these call centers and the cost of like what it took to like get you on the phone, go through those cycles and all of that, like, you know, take up the bandwidth of the person that's having to talk to you. Like I think that's where I would even go back again to a customer data platform. Had their IVR, and there are ones out there that are, you know, like for instance, as a company. I'm sorry, I don't even know what IVR stands for, but their telephony system, right?
Okay.
They're, you know, like, you know, touch tones, press 9, blah, 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 right? So, but also handles all call routing, things like that. I'm not on the telephony side. So, but I do know enough to know like companies like Twilio have mastered being able to take telephony and integrate it with their customer data, and they can do smart routing where like I know Chase, for instance, does smart routing where when you call in, they know, well, you were just on the website and you were just looking at this help article. I'm not gonna spend time sending you to someone that's gonna try and like upsell you on XYZ. You're trying to fix this thing with your bank account, or you actually are an in-market person. I'm gonna prioritize you with that person that's gonna upsell you on XYZ products because you have been looking at that stuff. And we know that about you.
My thing would be fix my problem and then shoot me a note and say, and oh, by the way, now that we've got your problem fixed, hey, if you want that thing, don't even say you were looking at it because that's minority reporty.
Right.
Here's $20 off, for the next 30 days for appreciate your business.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like you would like. Right.
Well, I mean,
it shouldn't be this difficult,
and that's the common sense side of this stuff. I was like that. It's customer data platforms. Would allow you to have access to that data, know and tie together and associate that this Bob that was on the website that had this engagement history is the same one. We know this by his phone number and by some tracking cookies and other things that we have going on that is calling in right now. And he will have a better experience because he just wants his problem fixed if you just get him to the person and don't upsell him and send him an email afterwards. But there's this other person that's totally going down a rabbit hole right now on what'd you call it? Say Redbox or what was the thing? Red, they kept asking you if you had it or through Comcast.
Red Zone.
Red Zone.
It was football training.
Okay. Yeah. I'm such, by the way, I am such not a sports guy that like whenever like that. And that's why I've probably been one of the very first cord cutters, right? And moved to all streaming services is like, I grew up with 4 older sisters, a dad from another country, like sports were not a thing in my house. And so I watch zero, like I spend like one Sunday a year trying to figure out how do I watch the Super Bowl just so I can like get on for the commercials and
so
stuff.
For what it's worth, Red Zone is the greatest gift that I've ever gotten.
Okay.
It's basically the lazy man's version of whenever something's good happening in a football game in the country, it will change a channel for you.
Oh,
so it's literally like after the Lions are on, I put on Red Zone and just like it shows me like whatever 8 games that are left. And it's all the good parts.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, we're going to flash over to the Arizona game and here's their,
Yeah, it does not compute for me, but I get it. I get it.
Right. It's funny. Well, the first time we talked about this over lunch, I went down a little wormhole and I started reading. And you're going to correct me and say, no, I'm way off base. But like, I talk origin stories way too much, but like getting into like one of the original people that ever, maybe this is CRMs. See, that's why I'm still I know it, they are, but like Andrew Carnegie, have you ever heard like how he's the shipping magnate. He's kind of said like, hey, we're going to do these transatlantic things. And we're going to, he kind of started doing from like New York to Florida stuff. But anyway, he was like the godfather of keeping like the insane Rolodex. So I would know as we're talking, he would make notes in a book of like your wife's name, your kids' names,
Yeah.
birthdays. He wouldn't be weird about it. Like, when's your youngest daughter's birthday? But if you ever mentioned, hey, going to a birthday party,
Yeah.
he would mental notes. So like, he knew what wine you liked. He knew where you liked to vacation. So like, he would, oh, here's a box of wine. Like, thank you for your business. Or like, he was so in tune with his customers, and that's kind of how he built his. And I kind of see that as like, even though that was rudimentary, it was quite brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, actually, and he did it. It was natural. It wasn't like he was being fake.
Yeah.
But like, that's the thing. And that's the thing. See, with me with CDP, I'm still having an issue with it, not because of it, but because like a lot of it's not opt in, and everyone knows everything about, like, we all knew what CDP was. I think the second we bought our first house.
Yeah.
And we got junk mail. We've been there a week.
Right.
Who the hell told the world I'm here?
Yeah.
And because our name got sold by our blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so that I think people get like this guard up that like, hey man, I didn't tell you this. It's one thing to tell Facebook I like Jägermeister. It's another thing to get, that Jaeger coupon from the liquor store down the street. We're like, wait a minute, I didn't tell you I liked Jaeger. You follow what I'm saying? So
yeah. I mean, I think that's where, I don't know. Again, I would just say, I would say by, power of CDP is these companies already have this data and they already are using it today, and they already are using it in those same ways. But maybe, that's where it's like that same company already knew, like, I don't know, like, let's say I worked for a giant liquor company and, we already know that you like Jägermeister, right? So by knowing that, plus by knowing the fact, that you just submitted an inquiry, on something, and that also you've had this purchase history with us in the past, and that, and then, oh, by the way, you were just, browsing on our website recently and discovered this, you were looking at this new brand that you're interested in, and you're some, collector of these liqueurs or something like that.
Right.
And I offer you a product that is actually something you're interested in. Like, to me, and this is me speaking personally, of like, I always put myself in market for anything I'm actually interested in. And like I'm the opposite of my wife. My wife, when we walk into, a store, for instance, I'm the first guy when the salesperson comes walking up, how can I help you? I'm like, let me tell you what I want. Let me tell you what I'm looking for. Let me allow you to serve in the way that you are trying to serve and give me a better experience. She wants nothing to do. She's like, please don't do that. I want to just look around with no pressure. And I'm like, you may as well get the shortcut to exactly like this person lives and breathes this brand. Why not take their help in finding exactly the one that's tailored to you? And every now and then, like, it works out and she'll end up with something she didn't really like. She thought she wanted this, but it turns out she actually wanted this other thing that maybe only someone that's an expert in that product would know. Right. And so I think that's where I'd say, to me, like, I want, I want that service. And maybe some people don't want that. Those people should use incognito browsers for sure. Those people should not submit lead forms on the internet. Those people, right, should not go and opt into things that they're trying to opt into. Like, no data is ever acquired, I think, even in a situation where it's like, I don't know, like that's the oldest one in the book, when it's like someone buys a house and it's public record information. They bought a house or bought a car, but it's like, I don't see anyone ever using that information very well, because it's oftentimes like, you just bought a car. Would you want to lease this one? No, guess what, guy? I just bought a car.
That's the cookie thing.
Yeah.
So
what's the cookie thing?
No, just like when you buy something on the internet,
cookies on the internet. Okay,
for 3
months.
I was
thinking cookies, like, and it's funny because I do cookies for a living, but I was thinking like something to eat. So
right. As like so. My mind's going 100 miles an hour on this. As a CDP owner, so now basically your job is to bring the best data to the marketing team that you humanly can.
It's really any team nowadays. It used to be so.
Okay,
here's a big pivot that's happened, Bob. So it used to be CDPs were the place where you would aggregate all of the data that's all around the organization. that is normally locked up in different silos so that your marketers can use it. And there was an overhead in doing that, which is you're duplicating all of your data in this one place only for the purpose of marketing. So you kind of had to, like, from an ROI perspective, really, like, it had to make sense to move that data into the CDP. And then you'd always find situations where it's like, well, okay, but I don't have the same data that's in this other system. And why now are we considering someone to be in market in the CRM and not in market in the CDP when it's the same person? And so it's two states of data, and it's a mess, right? So something cool that's happened in just the last couple of years, which is an area I went really deep on when I was researching selecting a CDP, is composable CDPs. And so composable CDPs are and really zero copy lakehouse first CDPs. These are all buzzwords you'll hear. And essentially what that means is you're not trying to buy this big monolithic platform where it's going to do all your email marketing, it's going to be your CRM, and it's going to be your CDP. Like, you're buying just the components you need. That's the composable part. Zero copy, meaning you're also not going to copy all of your data, bit for bit into the CDP. You're going to instead take your lakehouse, which your lakehouse is kind of this modern, data concept of, we've heard of data warehouses, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like you just dump all your data there, and it's data that is structured and dimensionalized in a way that it can be used for traditionally reporting, for analytics.
Sure.
And then you have your data lake, which is, very similar, but it's cloud-based, and it's where you can now do a lot of machine learning and data modeling, your AI, tasks on top of that data. And that's your data lake. Your lake house is where you're kind of combining those two concepts. And you're saying you have your data warehouse, which can be in the cloud now, because, that's the generation we're in. And then you have your data lake, which is already in the cloud. Bring those together and have those so that you really have one set of data as an enterprise, where it's like your lake house essentially, and there's some eventual consistency, but it has all of the data across your entire organization and as much of that data as you need. And there's not the same limitations in terms of, transactional systems only can store so much data because that data needs to be optimized to be used transactionally, right? But a lake house can have all of the data. And so you already have that information there as a company. Most companies are already investing in that type of architecture to make it possible to do data science and data analytics and those types of things. This composable CDP, this Lakehouse first CDP, this zero copy CDP essentially is one that's designed to say, you can have all of that and keep your data there. We're just going to sit on top of it. And then we will use the data there to build a profile and stitch together all of this data across. And then let's make that data able to be used to build audiences and to be able to build maybe like activation journeys and ways in which we want to use this data. Let's put APIs on top of this data and make it so that real-time systems can use this data for not just data science and analytics purposes, but to be able to say like, hey, I got a guy on the phone right now. CDP, do you know him? Like, oh yeah, I know that guy. All right. Do you have information about like maybe why they're calling? It's like, yeah, it's probably calling because he's just on the website 2 minutes ago. He was looking at a help article on his bank account, or whatever, right? Or this is the same guy that just called, 2 minutes ago. Or this is the same person that submitted a lead that was withdrawn, an hour ago. And maybe we need to get him right back to that person he was just talking to. And so, that's where I think CDPs and this new composable CDP is powerful because it's just better harnessing the data that companies already have.
Sure.
Versus saying, and anyone in the company can use that data and you can govern it to make sure like only the people you want to be using it are using it and using it in the way you want them to be using it. But, that's the difference, I suppose, in the traditional marketing CDPs of the past.
I'm still mentally in 2015 when I think CDP. That's why I probably. So when is it? I don't say when is it enough? Like you have a file on Randy right now, and you have. I don't know. Do you have infinite data points on Randy? Like, do you know everything that he's ever shared, or do you stop, or do you prioritize? Like, how would you put that puzzle together? right? You just like, if he puts out 1 million data points, you own all 1 million, or do you say, hey, these 10 are important, these are not, these are A list data, this is B list data.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, there's a ton of like, and this is where I'd say it depends on the industry you're in. Depends on what you're selling, right? So if you're in finance, it depends. Are you a bank? Are you not a bank? And so, like what country are you in, right? So do you have to worry about GDPR? Do you have to worry about like, the CCPA, right? So this is, what is that? California Consumer Protection Act, all those things. There's your right to delete and all of those kind of things where someone can tell you they want you to delete their data. If you're in the finance world, there's all types of different retention policies where maybe CFPB says you can retain this data for X amount of time on this person, and then you must delete it. And then some companies, by the way, also just to manage risk, on their own would only want to retain some amounts of data for, a certain period of time, just because that's good. That's just good risk management of like, if I retained infinite data on everything I did forever, well, guess what? That makes really great, things for lawyers in class action lawsuits that are, looking to fish for anything they can to like go and sift through. And so I'd say, data retention, that's where I mean, it's probably a long way to say it depends.
Sure.
I'm sure there's some companies that can just keep all data forever and ever, but I think most companies are governed by some, regulations that are requiring them to manage that data and, only keep it for as long as they're able to, and to prove they're in compliance with it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is you bring up a good point. I didn't even think about that. Being in fintech, being in finance, being banking.
Yeah,
like I know the compliance standards. Like I'm sure those cover data even. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Again,
absolutely.
I'm asking dumb questions, but
yeah.
I just this is stuff I don't know, so I want to
Yeah, they do, and it is different for like a bank versus like a mortgage lender versus other types of fintechs. The whistling is kind of it keeps giving me what was the Korean with and it had the whistle in it in Squid Games. It keeps giving me Squid Games vibes.
Totally.
Like that sound. Okay, sorry.
We're still at the Detroit Shipping Company. They're still not completely or they're trying to get rid of. So half the winterized stuff is still up, and that's we won't hear it, but it's totally like in our ear.
Yeah, it sounds like the whistle from Squid Games.
That's funny.
So just picture that if you're trying to figure out what the hell I'm talking about. Oh, sorry. Total side tangent. That happens with me. But,
I was getting into exciting stuff like lawyers and compliance.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the boring stuff. But I guess that's where I'd say every CDP is going to have some mechanisms for being able to manage that stuff. And by the way, CDPs are not like to be your data governance platform. They're not to be your master data management platform.
Right.
They're not to be, your CRM. These CDPs are the way in which you are saying, let's have the ability to bring together all of the data throughout the enterprise that should be governed. And let's be able to use that data. Now, your compliance layers would be, how can we use that data? And maybe you'll want to restrict, use of that data in certain ways, right? Because that does become some of the thing when you unlock the lakehouse.
Right.
You might build a data science model that's really useful in being able to take a person and predict something. But then now even those models are very tightly governed. And so they, at some point, a regulator may want to pick apart that model and say, the way in which you built that model is kind of prioritizing either for or against this particular demographic, which is a protected class. And so, by the way, now you are selectively not including this particular, class of person in this offer that you were you were trying to make. And it's like, and you may not be doing that intentionally. It just may be that this particular model that was built to predict this particular outcome, when you put together all the data and what it's doing. So that's where I think you may want to make sure, and that's where a CDP becomes useful, is like you maybe just can't use that. Like that data is off limits. You can't
Right.
use the output of that model or the output of that, for building personalization. So let's go ahead and just, take that and leave that off limits.
So we haven't brought up the two most important letters of the last 2 years or year and a half, AI.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a bad word but I'm wrapping my head around
A1.
It's so good. We were Sunday night at the guys that were here were talking about putting A1 on burgers, and I'm like, only at Five Guys. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But doing AI, how does that? I'm trying to get my head wrapped around where it would play, because I know where it plays and everything else.
Yeah.
This is the one thing where I haven't like immersed myself into. So like, is it in the predictive analytics that you just spoke of? Is it in the building models on how people like to be spoken to? Like, again,
I think it's more in because a lot of your AI, the power of it is going to be, again, that you can build these models on top of very large data sets and, unstructured data that doesn't have to be optimized for transactional systems. And so it gives you the ability to do more, right? But I think that, you also, your AI is only going to be as good as the data that you are providing it. And so, in some situations you may have, say for instance, some AI personalization that you're trying to do on your website where you want to, show, something that's personalized to a person's preferences or optimized to, what you think they're, like maybe a chatbot or something like that, right? That like let's try and anticipate, understand what this person's saying, but then also take some other information about them to give a response back that's going to work best for that person. And, you need data to be able to do that, right? So I think being able to then have an API that you could call to tap into and request some of that data, pass an identifier that you have on the site. And so maybe they're logged in, so you have an identifier, passing that to a CDP and being able to say like, hey, I have like, person identifier 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you know about that person? Actually, I do. That is not only person identifier 1, 2, 3, 4. That is also anonymous identifier 5, 6, 7, 8. That is also lead identifier 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is also lease number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here is a packet of data of all the stuff that you'd want in order to be able to now personalize this experience and this interaction to be able to talk to this person like you know them, like you are, and I think that's ultimately where these agents are going and chatbots and things like that is like, well, I would, if you're going to do it, go all in, like speak to me like the person that's in the call center that should be able to look up a screen and see everything about me and use that information to try and like anticipate what it is I'm asking for and like personalize this conversation for me, because that never happens, right? When you call anywhere, but I'm just saying, like,
but see, that's the way I want my chat. Like, I'm going back to my Comcast experience and I tried the chatbot.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I always thought the perfect model is that what you just mentioned is the R2D2 model.
Yeah.
You're not taking away a Luke Skywalker. You're adding him R2D2, like to do the massive compute stuff that Luke can't do.
Yeah.
And that was like the sidebar with all that information. Like, to me, that's what in terms of like, everybody uses the word agentic AI right now, but I think that's like literally the only way you should be using it, in my opinion. When you're in a call center and you're calling, everything is like the answers are spit out immediately. All the data's right there.
Yeah.
And I maybe you guys, I don't know if obviously I don't know behind the scenes, but like I'm sure you guys everyone's probably doing some version of it, but I think if that's not the way you're doing it, I think you're doing it wrong right now.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I absolutely. And that's not, not an area I'm like, I'm really focused on making sure, that we have, just because, like I said earlier, I work for one of the largest fintechs. And so we just have petabytes and petabytes of data.
Yeah.
And so being able to, leverage that data as an asset for, this AI like revolution that we're in, right. And being able to, do that without having to, jump through, massive, laborious hoops every single time that you're trying to do it, I think is the power. And then, being able to then have that same consistent sets of data, because that's the thing is like your AI is all over the place now, right? Like I know, like even in my company, it's like just so many different things that we initiatives we have going on. And I think the worst thing to me, maybe it's not the worst thing, but but certainly something I wouldn't want is different versions of my information all over the place that are leading to different experiences that I'm getting depending on the AI thing that's using that data, and so I think that's like if I think about like I bank at Bank of America, it's like I would never expect that. I don't care if I'm interacting with the credit card or if I'm interacting with my banking, my checking, my savings and investment. Like I'm sure in Bank of America, those are probably all separate, disparate systems, and the information like is brought all together. But like I'd want you to use my complete profile to like to be able to help me when I'm calling and to be able to make sure I'm getting the right service and personalize things to my liking.
Right.
And like, but maybe I'm a little unique in that like I always want that because I just know what's possible.
I do too. I think most people do. But I think now that I'm thinking of like use cases in AI, and I'm sure this is being done already, but like especially I'm trying to tie it into CDP, but like Randy's got 100,000 data points, let's say in your system, and AI can kind of take, no human's going to look at that and tell a story. You just can't. You just know individual bits, but like grabbing AI and being able to take 100,000 data points and being able to tell a story. I don't know what that story is. I'm just saying, like, to me, that's like the gold. That's where like it becomes for you as a company and him as a consumer and everyone in between. It just, again, he's talked to the way he wants to. You give him what he needs when he needs it, and you know exactly everything about your customer without asking a 1,000 questionnaire.
Yeah.
And maybe we get that. I was going to kind of ask you what's next. I don't know if that ties into it, but like what's CDPs evolved obviously because my mind is still 10 years ago. But like, what is next in terms of CDP? Is that more of a immersive experience? Is it customization? Is it allowing me to tell you how to talk to me instead of vice versa? Right? Like, I guess what is next?
Yeah. Well, what you brought up there is, so there is like a whole, and I think it's a few years old at this point, but there was a lot of talk about like in the data world, which is where I tend to live, that the next revolution is zero party data. And that's where like first party data, that's data I give you about, that's data you collect about a person, third party data, that would be data that you acquire about that person. And then zero party data would be data that a person gives you, knowing that you are going to use that data to be able to provide them better service and more personalized offers and things like that. And they normally do it under some incentive. And so so if you ever get a thing where it's like, hey, like take 10 minutes and give me we'll give you a gift card if you give us all this information. And by the way, it's like the intent here is you want to sell me something, but I get something out of it, right?
Sure.
And so so that zero party data, I think it'd be interesting to see, more and more of that in that, like, and again, this gets to me, like the transparency of it is like, if I know you're gathering this data just because it's going to make it easier for you to sell me things, but on the flip side, I know it's going to keep you from wasting my time on trying to sell me the things that I'm not interested in. It's like, like the internet's like only so much shelf space. I'm going to see ads. It will happen.
So that was ePrize. I don't know if you followed them.
Yeah.
I mean, for those not familiar, it's, Josh Linkner, they were one of my first clients when I was working out of that data center and like my first IT job. And if you did like the early days of the internet, you didn't know who was going to your website. You didn't have stuff like you have today, tools.
Yeah.
So basically they put a banner at the top saying win this Porsche, fill out this form.
Yeah.
And you're like, people didn't think twice because it was the early days of the internet. And now, XYZ.com has 250,000 people that went to their website that otherwise they would have known existed.
Yeah.
It was quite brilliant.
Yeah,
for the time.
Yeah.
Not a cool name is Flues, though.
What's Flues?
You don't remember Whoopi Goldberg, I think, pushing Flues? It was like this online currency. You'd buy Flues and then spend it at a bunch of different online websites.
That was real.
God.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
FLUZE.
FLOOZ.
Oh, even worse.
Which is now a great time to mention that Flues is actually
Yeah. Show is sponsored by. I have a disdain for anyone that changes an S to a Z. By the way, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Burgers.
Right.
Flus.
Yeah.
Are you googling it?
Flues?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it still exist?
Oh, God, no. It died years ago.
Good. Well, so the point, I guess, going back to like the shelf space on the internet, the way, again, I look at it is like, if at some point as a rational person, you realize like, are you going to be a user of Instagram? Yes or no? Are you going to be a user of Facebook? Yes or no? You will see ads. It is a fact,
Sure.
right? You will see me as being a person that is very open with my data in a way that allows, the marketing that I see be like more relevant to me. I tend to see a lot of ads for things that I'm interested in, things that I actually want to buy. If you are a person that you're like, I got this thing down, I'm on incognito browsers, I don't log into XYZ, I do blah, blah, blah. Guess what? You will still see the same number of ads that I see.
Mm.
Your ads are just going to be for random things,
Right.
that you may or may not buy. And it will be noise, 100% noise to you, right? So, and you will still get spam emails and you will still get calls and you will still get all these other things. So to me, my whole thing is like, I just go with it. And this is not me like, selling this for a company. This is me saying like, just where I'm at in life is saying like, I know these things are going to happen. So I just instead say like, let me put myself in market in such a way that I'm going to always have the most relevant stuff put in front of me. And that's again, a way that I look at what CDPs allow you to do is just take data companies already have and allow them to like tailor experiences to those people.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that if people knew how much data was on them and being sold as currency, they would lose their minds.
You think so?
Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I don't think people. I don't think the common.
Sold as currency. That's another thing. Yeah, I mean, certainly, yeah. There's
data companies out there that are offering a product to package up your data to sell to other companies today. We've been talking about that since the early days of this podcast. Like people don't understand, like by you using Gmail, like you're pretty much giving, and it's a free product. So you're the product, you're not paying for it.
Yeah.
You gave Google, I gave them 10 years of pretty much the way I talk, who I talk to, what I buy, what I read news on, everything. I didn't go into Gmail knowing that. Do I care now? I can't fight it. It's one of those things where, and I don't think it's harmful.
And I do think consumers pay attention to that stuff and that like, and there is, I mean, not only just the ethics, but then like, what does that say about your brand? If you're taking data and using it in ways that people aren't expecting you to, or, wouldn't reasonably think you would use that data when they provide it to you. And so that's why I do like Salesforce has this motto, not motto, but like it's a branding slogan, right? Of like, your data is not our product. And so, I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah. And that helps companies that use Salesforce kind of feel at ease. They're like, okay, cool. So yeah, you do have a ton of data about my customers, but those are my customers. That's my data, right? And so that's kind of how I look at it too. Of like, like what I mentioned earlier is like, because I work for like one of the largest fintechs. That data we have, that's our data. We've collected and gathered and earned the right to have this data by providing services people want and giving them experiences that they have voluntarily opted into, right?
But it's something you guys have worked very hard for 20 years.
Which
is what other companies would spend $1 trillion to obtain too.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
I think you should earn that, right?
Yeah.
That you should earn that data versus just going out and like I do think, this gets less into like a CDP and more about like a marketing strategy. If your strategy is, I'm going to like just get a bunch of data about people and then use that to like try and like get my foot in the door and hope that they never realize I went and got a bunch of creepy data about them that they didn't expect I have. Like,
right.
People are smart, right? They're going to be like, at some point, I'm like, okay, the fact that I never engaged you as a company and that you are now calling me about specifically the thing I'm looking for, like, yeah, people will put two and two together and that will creep them out. Like,
Right.
I think, that's probably not what you really need to be using a CDP for, because quite frankly, you can just go use third-party data services, and like you can find a company that will go out and drop a direct mail piece using some third-party data to your customers that will have that creepy message, and they'll do it for you, right? It's probably not a good strategy, but they will do it for you. I think a CDP is more about saying like, you already have data that a person's already shared with you.
Right.
You just as a company are so unable to tie together all of this information across so many different systems. Like, let's make that easy for you. Let's make that possible. Like that really is the power of the CDP.
So think about, Randy, you two, think about the first time you guys saw Minority Report.
Yeah.
And you walked in the front of the store and it said, "Good morning, Mr. Juan. You have, let's say you're walking into Home Depot and it's like, good to see you again. You haven't bought air filters for your furnace in 6 months. If it's $1 off on aisle 7, thank you for coming in."
Yeah.
Like that movie though, that freaked us out. Like, oh my God.
That's kind of what I want MPerks to do. Like, what I'm buying.
So like going back to Minority Report, like I went to Costco this past weekend, and to me, it's a flawless experience. And it's funny because, we spend an obscene amount of money there.
Yeah.
But it's like we brag about the little things like that we find there, like the soup or the $1.50 hot dog or
right.
And they built this crazy brand, and I don't care that it costs, my membership is whatever, $65, $85. I don't even like the fact that it's even a membership and nobody cares. The fact that they built this flawless experience for me. Again, like that's
and they do that though, powered by, and it's not personalized, right? The way that you could do with a digital experience, because it's a real physical. You're in a store, right? So unfortunately, we're not at a space yet where you can be directed down the right aisles for you. But Costco does use tons of data to be able to figure out like what are these things that are going to get people in this area, in this region, excited, and let's take those things and limit the quantities of them and sprinkle them throughout, so that people get an experience of they found the thing that they want, right? And like my wife actually always buys these. My kids eat them too. I don't even know the brand, but they're these like chocolate muffins that are made with vegetables, like zucchinis and things like that. And they have them in the freezer. And they can pop them in the microwave for breakfast. It's like a healthy, tasty breakfast you can eat. And they sell the same ones at Target for like, I don't know, like $5 for 4 of them, or you can get a 50 pack at Costco for $9, right? So, so anytime we find those there in Costco, that's a big deal. And we'll make sure we'll get them, and we'll buy 10 boxes of them. And it's like, you feel like you save some money on this thing.
But it's not even a save money thing, because you look at it like we talked earlier about like Netflix, and think about how much of our conversations are like, oh, did you see? And oh, did you get? And oh my God, did you see the thing at Costco?
Right.
Or did you get like, oh my God, I went shopping this weekend? Because like, if you go back to like the 90s or the 2000s, like going to the record store on Saturday and finding that weird single.
Yeah.
Like that was,
you
like,
want that experience, that
dopamine
hit of
that
like,
was
I
my
discovered
hit.
this, right?
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my, and I'd call my buddy on the phone. Oh my God, look what I found. And I'd play it in the phone. And they're like that. I'm not saying that magic's gone, but it's to get a dopamine hit though from shopping. Like again, the fact that they even bring that to the table, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I guess it, does someone feel maybe to relate this back to the data and the CDP conversation? If I told you then that Costco does that intentionally, and that they do that because they know that provides the experience that makes it more enjoyable for people to want to go to the store and return to Costco's. And it's why I literally talk to people that like say their favorite pastime is to go to Costco and walk up and down the aisle. So like that is done on purpose, right? So like, would you suddenly then be like, well, now I don't like it because you're a company that's trying to like provide me an experience that's going to like give me the thing I want faster and make me buy things.
No,
like,
it's the Disneyland of shopping. Like you don't have bad experiences there. It's just And if they manipulate in certain way, then so be it. You know, hats off to you for pulling that off. Again, I welcome. I bring on my CDP data overlords into making my experience in life better. And make me buy more shit, which is ultimately the end of the game. So with that being said, Dave, always good seeing you. Well, obviously I know we'll see you soon, but we're going to wrap things up for this episode of the IT and the D Show. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor, drink up your drinks, get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful.
Yeah.
Beat it.